On the evening of January 1st, 2008, an emergency call came through a 911 call center in Texas. It was no ordinary call. A young woman's voice sounded frantic and weak on the other end of the line, before abruptly disconnecting. No one expected that. Just minutes later, police would find a taxi parked outside a hotel, with two young women inside, motionless. At the same time, not far away, a man disappeared without a trace. The people of Irving had never seen such a heartbreaking and controversial incident. No gunshots rang out, no witnesses on the scene, just a call, a car, and silence that lasted for more than a decade. Behind it all was an immigrant family with a seemingly peaceful exterior. Two vibrant daughters, living between two worlds, traditional and modern, a strict father, a hidden past. The case not only shocked the local community, but also opened up many debates across the United States about honor, power, and personal freedom in immigrant families. This is not just a story about crime. This is a tragedy where the last voice of a girl reveals a painful truth. The Saeed family used to live in Irving, Texas, USA. On the surface, they were a normal immigrant family, a father who worked as a taxi driver, a mother who was a housewife, and three children, two girls, one boy. In the neighborhood, they were known as a quiet, unsociable family, but they did not attract special attention. The father, Yasser Abdel Saeed, was of Egyptian descent and had settled in the U.S. since the 1980s. He was described as strict, conservative, and deeply traditional. Although he had lived in the U.S. for many years, he always maintained his belief in raising his children according to his home culture. The two daughters, Amina, 18 years old, and Sarah, 17 years old, grew up in a completely different environment. The girls were born and raised in the United States, attended local high schools, spoke English, and had a diverse circle of friends. Amina was described by her teachers as intelligent, active, and had dreams of pursuing a career in medicine. Sarah was more introverted, but very sensitive and loved her family. The girl's mother, Patricia Owens, was American and had married Yasser when she was very young. Their marriage lasted for many years, but deep inside were cracks that few people knew about. Between a family with two cultures, two generations, and two ways of life, tension seemed to be only a matter of time. And the tragedy began in the place that seemed the safest, the roof. In the last days of 2007, the atmosphere in the Saeed family became more tense than ever. According to friends and teachers, Amina and Sarah seemed to be worried about something. Some relatives on the mother's side said that both of them had shared that they wanted to leave home and start a new life, away from the control of their father. On December 30th, 2007, Patricia, the mother of the two girls, took all three of them out of Texas, heading to Oklahoma to find temporary shelter. During those days, they stayed with relatives, and according to some sources, Amina did not want to return home even for a moment. However, just one day later, Patricia changed her mind. She decided to take the children back home to Irving, hoping that everything would be okay if we kept the peace. Amina resisted, but out of love for her mother and sister, she eventually agreed to return with them. On January 1st, 2008, the Saeed family showed up at their home. That same day, Yasser offered to take his daughters out to dinner. Sarah and Amina got in the car, not knowing that it would be the last time they would sit together. That evening, an emergency call came in, and from that moment on, the local community would never be the same. On the evening of January 1st, 2008, the atmosphere in Irving, Texas seemed as quiet as any other New Year's night. But in a light-colored taxi moving through the suburban streets, a tragedy was silently unfolding. No screams, no witnesses, no obvious signs. Yasser Abdel Saeed, the father, offered to take his two daughters, Amina and Sarah, to dinner or for a change of air. This initially seemed to be an act of reconciliation after a long-standing tension in the family. Patricia, the mother of the two girls, recalled that Amina was reluctant to go at first, sensing that something was wrong, but she got in the car with her father and sister anyway. The taxi, driven by Yasser himself, left the area around dusk. That was the last time Patricia saw her two daughters alive. No one knows exactly what happened inside the car, but based on later investigation and evidence at the scene, it was determined that Amina and Sarah were seriously injured in the car. At around 7:30 p.m., an emergency call was placed from Sarah's cell phone. For a few seconds, her voice was filled with panic.
What's going on, ma'am?
I'm dying, that's what's up.
Irving Fire Department. Ma'am, are you still there? Ma'am, are you still there?
That was the last trace of Sarah. The call was disconnected before the operator could ask any more questions. Shortly afterward, police were dispatched to a parking lot outside the Omni Mandalay Hotel in Las Colinas, an upscale area of Irving. There they found the taxi. Inside the car, two young women lay motionless. Amina had died at the scene, and Sarah was in critical condition. Despite emergency medical assistance, she could not be saved. Yasser Saeed was not present at the scene. There were few traces left on the driver's seat. The car had no internal surveillance cameras, and there were no eyewitnesses to the incident. Police immediately identified Yasser as the last person with the victim, and the only one who could have been driving the car. But when they tracked him down to his address, he had disappeared, leaving behind a shocked community and a devastated family. From that point on, a manhunt that lasted more than 12 years began. But the real reason behind Yasser's actions remains a major public question. When Sarah Saeed's 911 call was received, the operator immediately notified the local police department. Although the signal was cut off and the exact location of the call was not determined, the GPS tracking system on the cell phone helped the response team determine the approximate coordinates: a parking lot near the Omni Mandalay Hotel in the Las Colinas neighborhood of Irving. When officers arrived at the scene at approximately 8 p.m. on January 1st, 2008, they quickly discovered a Ford Crown Victoria taxi parked quietly, with no one inside conscious. The doors were locked but showed no signs of forced entry. Through the glass, the streetlights dimly reflected two motionless figures in the back seat. When the car door was opened, a tragic scene emerged. Amina Saeed was found to have no signs of life. Sarah, still with a very weak pulse, was taken to the nearest hospital, but died from her severe injuries. There was no one in the front seat, and the father, Yasser Abdel Saeed, was completely gone. Forensic staff and crime scene investigators quickly cordoned off the area. Markers, photos of the scene, and samples were carefully collected. No weapons were recovered from the car, but traces of wounds on the victims' bodies and the amount of dried blood indicated that the incident occurred inside the car. After the bodies of the two girls were transferred to the Dallas County Medical Examiner's Office, forensic experts conducted autopsies within 24 hours. Amina Saeed, 18, had multiple serious injuries to her upper body. The conclusion of death was recorded as internal injuries due to acute blood loss. Sarah Saeed, 17, in addition to suffering similar injuries, was also identified as the person who made the 911 call while critically injured. This made her call central evidence throughout the subsequent investigation. Although no weapon was recovered at the scene, the direction of the injuries, the position of the seat, and the trajectory allowed the forensic expert to determine that the perpetrator had been sitting in the front seat, facing the rear, and committing the murder. The silence of the Las Colinas night was shattered by the news that spread quickly. Within hours, local media were on the scene, recording images of the car blocked off by yellow tape and a series of unanswered questions. When the identities of the two victims were confirmed and the father was the prime suspect, public opinion was immediately shocked. But with him gone without a trace, the investigation would become a journey that would last more than a decade. Immediately after identifying the two victims as Amina and Sarah Saeed, the Irving Police Department quickly put Yasser Abdel Saeed on the list of prime suspects. He was the last person to be with the two girls, and he was also the driver of the taxi where the crime took place. However, when the authorities arrived at his residence, Yasser had disappeared, leaving no trace, no message. He left the scene as if he had prepared in advance. A warrant was issued for his arrest within 24 hours of the incident. The FBI officially got involved, working with the Texas police to expand the investigation. Yasser Abdel Saeed was charged with 2 serious crimes and a federal arrest warrant was issued across the United States. In the early years, the search made little progress. Whenever a lead came, he disappeared before the police could get close to him. The FBI believed that Yasser was supported by a network of acquaintances, possibly including relatives, friends, or community members. This made the search much more complicated. In 2014, the FBI placed Yasser Abdel Sayed on its list of America's 10 Most Wanted. A reward of up to $100,000 was even announced for anyone who provided information leading to his arrest. The turning point came in August 2020. Based on an undercover investigation, the FBI determined that Yasser was likely hiding in a home in Justin, Texas, less than 50 miles from the crime scene. Police had been watching for weeks before they had concrete evidence from security cameras. On August 26, 2020, a joint federal and local task force raided the home. Yasser Abdel Sayed was taken into custody without incident. At the same time, two of his relatives, his son and brother, were also arrested for assisting in the cover-up. After 12 years on the run, the man once considered a ghost without a trace finally faced justice. The case against Yasser Abdel Sayed was built over a period of more than 12 years, with the cooperation of the FBI, Irving Police, and Texas state judicial agencies. Although Yasser did not give a clear statement, the investigating agencies relied on objective evidence to strengthen the case. Sarah Saeed's 911 call became the central piece of evidence, not only recording the victim's voice, but also clearly identifying the suspect in a critical moment. In addition, the results of the autopsy, traces at the scene, and the GPS location of the phone completely matched the route of Yasser's taxi on the night of the incident. In addition, the testimony of Yasser's son and brother, who were prosecuted for helping him hide, also played an important role. They admitted to helping Yasser hide for many years, showing his intention to avoid the law. All of these elements were turned over to the Texas state prosecutor, paving the way for formal prosecution on felony charges, which carry the maximum sentence allowed by law. In August 2022, nearly 2 years after his arrest, Yasser Abdel Sayed officially appeared in court in Dallas County, Texas. The case quickly attracted great attention from the domestic and international media because it was not only a murder case, but also a symbol of complicated family conflicts. At the trial, the prosecutor presented the entire case, from Sarah's heartbreaking 911 call to the autopsy results, the taxi route, and forensic evidence. Testimony from Yasser's son and brother, who helped him hide for more than a decade, was also presented to the jury. The defense did not offer any clear justification for Yasser's actions, and the defendant himself continued to remain silent for most of the trial. However, the evidence was so overwhelming that it took the jury less than a day to reach a final verdict. On August 9, 2022, Yasser Abdel Sayed was sentenced to 2 life sentences, without the possibility of parole. This sentence is considered the final step in closing the journey of justice that has lasted more than 14 years since the tragic moment that happened in a taxi on the night of early 2008. The case of Amina and Sarah Sayed has been closed after years of waiting. But for those left behind, family, friends, and the community that witnessed the 2 girls' bright smiles, the pain remains, lingering and unending. Amina was a bright, lively girl who dreamed of becoming a doctor. Sarah was gentler, quieter, but had a strong passion for photography. The 2 sisters once hoped for a future of freedom and happiness, something they never had the chance to reach. This case is not only a tragedy of a family, but also a warning about the hidden cracks in close relationships. Sometimes the place that seems safest is where the deepest conflicts are hidden. Their story has sparked widespread debate about family safety, personal freedom, and the role of the community in detecting and preventing risks early. For those who knew Amina and Sarah, they will remember not only the heartbreaking ending, but also the memories of 2 brave girls who fought to reclaim their own lives. And for society, this is a strong reminder. Don't stay silent when you see unusual signs, because a small action, a caring question, can be the only thing missing to change a person's fate.